Welcome to Epic Recaps. Today, we are going to recap the 2021 action thriller film, Nobody. Let's get started. Spoilers ahead. The movie begins with a man who is handcuffed and badly beaten. First he takes out a cigarette, and then he takes a can of tuna from his jacket and opens it while smoking. He also takes a kitten out of his jacket and puts it on the table. There are a man and a woman sitting across from him, asking him questions. Hutch Mansell appears to be a regular person who lives a normal life. Hutch has 2 children with his beautiful wife Becca. He works at Eddie's metal fabrication company, which is owned by his father-in-law. Hutch is getting tired of his dull daily routine. His son Blake doesn't seem to respect him because he doesn't even say hello when Hutch comes home from work. Even at home, things aren't going well between Hutch and his wife, as there is a pillow separating them on the bed. One night, he hears a dog barking in the neighborhood and goes outside to check. As he goes downstairs, he hears intruders breaking into his house. Hutch tries to call for help, but one of the female intruders shows up and threatens him with a gun, demanding money. Hutch notices a tattoo on her wrist. Just as they are about to take his wedding ring, Hutch's son Blake comes downstairs and fights off the male intruder. The female intruder points the gun at them, and Hutch gets ready to fight her with a golf club, but he stops himself and tells Blake to let them go. They leave after punching Blake in the face. The intruder attack results in Blake getting a black eye, which makes him angry with his father, and they become even more distant from each other. The police arrive, and Hutch is angry with himself for not protecting his family. His whole family is disappointed in him as they go back to bed. Hutch sleeps on the couch downstairs, and his daughter Sammy joins him. She is the only one in the family who has a good relationship with him. She suggests that they get a cat. The next day, Blake asks Hutch if he can interview him for a project on veterans, but Hutch tells him that he's just an auditor. Becca suggests Blake to interview his uncle, who was a real soldier. The family leaves the house to start their day, and Sammy gives Hutch a hug on the way out. Hutch's neighbor comments that if it were him, he would have fought off the intruders, and he also boasts about his new car. Hutch's uneventful week continues as he goes to work at the factory. When he arrives, his brother-in-law Charlie questions why he didn't fight back against the intruders. Charlie gives Hutch a gun and asks him to protect his sister. Hutch takes the gun and hides it in a box at the back of the refrigerator. Eddie visits Hutch to discuss a fair offer to buy the business from him. Eddie wants a good deal after a lifetime of hard work, but Hutch says that he just wants something that he can call his own. After the meeting, Hutch locks his office and contacts his supposedly dead brother, Harry, on the radio. He explains that he held back from attacking the intruders because they were young, scared, and desperate, and their gun wasn't even loaded. Harry reassures Hutch that he did the right thing and urges him not to make any reckless decisions. Later, Hutch visits his father, who asks if he remembers the man he used to be. When Hutch returns home, he finds his family gathered around the dinner table. When he enters home, Blake barely acknowledges him, and Becca asks about his day. However, Sammy is concerned about her missing kitty cat bracelet, which was in the same bowl with the money that the intruders stole. Hutch visits his father again, who urges him to perform his upcoming task with utmost care. His father loans him his old FBI badge and gun, which Hutch intends to use to track down the burglars. Hutch visits several tattoo parlors, showing them his badge, but one of the artists mocks him for having a 20-year-old badge. Hutch reveals that he is just a man searching for someone, and he offers the artists to take the money from his wallet. They eventually notice the tattoo on his wrist, and their attitude towards him changes. A man then asks how they can help, and Hutch points toward a picture with a tattoo. They gave him the address of a person who had the same tattoo. Hutch goes to the address and points his gun at the girl's boyfriend. He asks them to give back his watch and kitty cat bracelet. The couple's baby wakes up because they are shouting, so Hutch leaves. He punches a wall in frustration and sadness, then gets on a bus. Suddenly, another vehicle stops the bus and 5 thugs come to the closed door. A young girl is sitting alone on the bus, and the female driver looks scared as she opens the door. Some thugs get on a bus and start bothering the passengers. Hutch is sitting at the back of the bus and watches quietly. When the thugs surround a young girl, Hutch stands up and walks past them. He tells the driver to stop the bus, closes the door, and goes back to confront the thugs. Hutch takes the bullets out of his gun and threatens the boys, but they just laugh at him. This makes Hutch even more angry, and he attacks the thugs, beating them up badly. He also gets hurt in the fight, but keeps on fighting. Hutch beats up the thugs really badly, and they are almost dead. He gets off the bus and says sorry to the driver for what happened. When he reaches home, he finds his wife sitting alone in the dark. She asks him where he was, and he says it was like the old days tonight. His wife starts cleaning his wounds and Hutch tells her that they don't feel close anymore and there's no intimacy left in their relationship. He asks her if she remembers how they used to be. Becca then removes the pillow between them and starts touching him gently. Next, we see a man yelling at the driver for missing their destination location. His name is Julian Kuznetsov, who is part of a gang, gets out of a car and goes into a club. He goes on stage and sings and dances, then goes to talk to some men about the security for Obshak. The men say they are happy with the security, so Julian introduces them to his assistant Pavel. However, one of the men says that Julian's singing and dancing don't make them feel confident about him taking care of their money. Julian doesn't like this, so he kills one of the men and asks if they feel confident now. Julian gets a phone call and the next scene shows him standing next to his brother's hospital bed. His brother's brain has been seriously injured and Julian believes it has something to do with Obshak. Another injured man in the room shows Julian a Metro card that he found during the fight on the bus. The next day, Hutch appears to be in better spirits and is getting ready for his day. He tells his son that he's proud of him for fighting off the intruders. Later on, Hutch gets a call from his brother, who tells him to go see a guy known as the Barber. His brother reveals that one of the thugs Hutch beat up is the younger brother of Julian, a rich and powerful Russian crime boss. The Barber fills Hutch in on the situation and reveals that Julian doesn't know who Hutch is yet. However, despite hating his younger brother, Julian still plans to seek revenge for his brother's beating. The Barber explains that Obshak is a big operation that deals with millions of dollars and Julian is in charge of it. Julian is tired of this responsibility and is now trying to find out where Hutch's father, who lives in a nursing home, is located. Julian's secretary blackmails someone in the Pentagon to access archives and find information on Hutch. The man finds nothing as Hutch is listed as a nobody. Meanwhile, Hutch seems happy and prepares a meal for his family, suggesting they all go to Italy. Suddenly, a car approaches, and Hutch immediately asks his family to go to the basement. Julian's men, led by Pavel, storms at Hutch's house, but he fights back and manages to kill most of them. However, Pavel eventually subdues Hutch with a taser, and they take him away in a car. While in the car, Hutch dislocates his wrists to remove the handcuffs and uses a fire extinguisher to blind his kidnappers. The car crashes, and before Pavel dies, Hutch reveals his true identity to him. Hutch then rushes home to free his family from the basement. Hutch hurries back to his home and calls David to warn him about the danger. He then frees his family from the panic room. Hutch sends his family away to a safe place and promises to come back to them. His wife Becca drives off with the kids. Hutch then gathers the dead bodies on his couch and speaks to them. He reveals that he used to be an auditor and assassin for intelligence agencies, tasked with taking out those who thought they were invincible. He did his job well until he let one target live. Later, Hutch discovers that the man had built a new life for himself and is living a peaceful life. After seeing this, Hutch retired from his job against the wishes of his bosses and has been trying to distance himself from his old life ever since. He then sees the kitty cat bracelet next to a pool of blood by the radio. He tells the dead man that bones burn at 1500 degrees and leave no trace. Hutch admits he always knew he was living a fake life, but it lasted longer than he thought. He then burned down his house and takes a picture of his family with him as he leaves. Outside, he sees his boastful neighbor's new car. Hutch decides to take that car and drives off. Next, a car arrives at the nursing home with two assassins. They head straight to Hutch's father's room and approach him while he pretends to sleep. As they near him, he strikes and kills both of them. Hutch goes to his workplace and empties a bag of gold bars onto Eddie's desk and informs him that he is purchasing the company. Meanwhile, Julian is watching the news and discovers that Hutch is responsible for Pavel's death. Hutch temporarily closes down the factory and prepares for battle by stockpiling weapons and ammo on his desk. Harry contacts him on the radio, and Hutch shares his plan. He then drives to the location where the mob is counting their Obshak money. Hutch enters the building, guns blazing, and takes a Van Gogh painting before setting fire to Julian's expensive artwork and stacks of money. Having dealt a fatal blow, Hutch proceeds to meet Julian at the club. Despite being surrounded by his men, Hutch has a trick up his sleeve, an explosive device hidden under his napkin, with the detonator in his hand. Hutch tells everyone, if anyone approaches him, the device will explode. Hutch sits across from Julian at a table and informs him that he has destroyed everything the gangster owns. Julian becomes unhinged at the news. Hutch presents Julian with a choice: pursue him or take what little is left and escape. With that, Hutch departs from the club. An enraged Julian orders his entire crew to go after Hutch, who is waiting for them at the factory with David and Harry by his side. Using their expertise in advanced weapons, they set traps and take out all of the gunmen except Julian. During the encounter, Julian shoots Harry. Seeing Harry injured, Hutch attacks with a claymore mine attached to a bulletproof glass panel, which he detonates, killing Julian. Hutch expresses his gratitude to Harry and David before they depart, just as police cars arrive. Hutch leaves a heartfelt message for Becca before leaving with a painting and a kitten wrapped in his jacket. The police eventually apprehend him. This is the starting scene of the movie. However, he is quickly released without charges. Hutch is then shown buying a new house with Becca. 3 months later, he receives a call requesting his services once again. In the last scene, Harry and David are seen driving to an undisclosed location in an RV fully stocked with firearms. If you enjoyed watching this movie recap, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos.